So just on list hygiene, number one, you want to make sure that you're emailing to quality email addresses. So you're going to want to know about deliverability. The email address doesn't bounce, and you want to make sure that an email is not going to bounce and it actually reaches an inbox. You want to make sure it's accurate. So if the email is deliverable, make sure it's connecting to the correct inbox, so the user that you intended the message to be delivered to. So in other words, if it connects to the intended, make sure it connects to the intended target. And then we suggest that you remove any kind of disposable roll account type email addresses in order to identify or increase your email deliverability. So on top of that, you want to make sure you're able to identify any misspelled or typoed email, bogus, roll accounts, or spam traps. And we'll talk to you a little bit about how you can do that. Make sure you're using a primary email address, one that people are still using. Most people have many more than one email address nowadays. So you want to validate that the email address they give you is still a working email address. And then have a proper validation in place. Poor email quality is going to cost your company money, and we talk to people every single day. Why would you waste money sending messages to people who aren't looking to engage with your messaging? Blocking and blacklisting. If you have bad email practices and that lead to blocking and blacklisting, the cost to recover from that is it's extensive and it takes a lot of time. So you really don't want to lead yourself into a blocking or blacklisting situation. And as you if you think about it, you spend a lot of time and effort to collect these email addresses. You want to make sure you maximize that investment. So make sure that they're deliverable at the end. And many types of bad addresses can cause you problems. Typos, disposable, roll accounts, spam traps, they're all bad news. They're all going to lead to you getting harming your sender reputation. And unlike postal mail, when you have an incorrect address for someone, it doesn't get returned to the post office. It doesn't sit there and be delivered to the current resident. If you have 5% of your email addresses that are bad, those 5% can actually impact greatly the deliverability of the other 95% of the email list you're trying to reach out to. So think about acquisition sources. Make sure you're protecting yourself. Make sure that you're collecting emails at point of sale, website, call centers, and putting the right tools in place to validate at each of those entry points. And then lastly, proper email hygiene will yield major results. So if you clean and correct in real time at the point of sale, website, and call center, you're going to increase the effectiveness of your email list. Keep the bad emails, the toxic emails, the harmful email addresses out of your database. And this will, by doing this, it's going to increase the inbox placement and equal higher engagement and revenues from your email marketing efforts. And then suggested corrections. So as an email is being entered, if you can identify a misspelled or a double dot or a double.com or a double @ sign, and those could be corrected, you can turn a misspelled or a typo or a mistake into a revenue generating email address. So just a couple of examples of email addresses. I think I've talked about all these. Problematic email addresses would be the spam traps, honeypots, those types of things. Invalid email accounts where the information is just entered incorrectly. Frequent spam complainers. These are folks that are going to hurt your sender reputation as the ISPs are monitoring the spam complaints that based on your sending domain. Typos could be actually a malicious email address or a spam trap, but if you correct those typos, it could be a revenue opportunity for you. Roll accounts, be wary of those. Info at, sales at, those types of email accounts can hurt you, because as those email addresses are sent off to the 20 people that are within that role account, 18 of them may actually lodge a spam complaint, which would have a negative impact on you. And then, of course, bogus email addresses. So how do we help you? Well, Fresh Address has a product called Safe to Send. It's a validation, email validation service. And we do this through a 3-step process: check, protect, and correct. Number one, we're going to check to make sure that every email address in your database is a valid email and that it can actually reach an inbox. We're going to correct. So those that we are identifying errors within those email addresses, whether it be a spelling error, a double @ sign, syntax errors, things that I've mentioned before, we're going to correct those for you. Once we correct those, we actually then will revalidate and make sure that they are deliverable email addresses. So we're not just correcting and handing it off to you, and saying good luck. We're actually going to validate it after we've corrected. And then lastly, protect. We want to make sure we protect your email database. So many malicious emails are actually deliverable emails. They hit an inbox. They look like they're interacting with you. These are the spam traps, the honeypots. And these are the ones that are set up to actually damage your sender reputation, right? And you're being monitored and watched. And if you're hitting a lot of spam traps, that gets reported back to your ISP. And your ISP can actually start to blacklist or block you from sending email addresses. So we're going to remove the spam traps and malicious emails from your email database. And then lastly, we suggest that you put the validation at all the points of entry, real time if you can, at point of sale, at website, within the call center, setting up people with tools to actually validate as they enter the email address. And this will lead to 100% accurate and deliverable email addresses in your email database.